Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here today. This is my first time doing a live on this particular platform, and I just want to share a little bit about what to expect tonight before we officially start. The first thing is that we pre-recorded the videos, so we were able to get everybody that we wanted to join, which is really exciting. But let's get started. Anyway, hello, everyone. I haven't even said who I am. My name is Julie Ann. Thank you for tuning in. This is Goals Unleashed, keeping the flame alive. And I'm absolutely thrilled to be your guide tonight as we dive into an adventure of personal growth and empowerment. So think of tonight as more than just a show. I want you to think of it as a catalyst, a spark that's going to set off a chain reaction in your life. We've got 6 incredible speakers lined up, and each of them is a master in their field. And they're each going to share their secrets to success. And trust me, you don't want to miss a word. So let's get comfortable. If you haven't already, go grab yourself a notepad and get ready to be inspired. We're not just talking about dreams tonight. We're talking action, transformation, and of course, how to keep that inner fire of yours burning bright long after that initial glow of the excitement of the goal wears off. So let's get started and unleash those goals of yours. So as I mentioned, we have 6 different guests lined up for tonight, and we are going to feature each of them in just a moment. Sorry, just give me a second. This is what happens when you try and do things live. Anyway, I apologize. Here we go. 1 second. There's nobody watching right now anyway, so that's okay. But anyway, our first guest up tonight is going to be an amazing person who I had the privilege of meeting recently. And anyway, without further ado, I am thrilled to have Jon Macaskill with us. He's a man whose life story reads like an adventure novel. It's pretty cool. From the sun-drenched landscapes of South Africa to the heart of Ruston, Louisiana, Jon's journey is nothing short of remarkable. So imagine this. He's a young man. He's inspired by a sense of duty. He joins the U.S. Navy. Not just any role, though. Jon pushes himself to the elite ranks of the Navy SEALs. Imagine the grit and determination it takes to get through that grueling training. And that's Jon for you. He's a blend of resilience and dedication. But Jon's story doesn't stop at being a SEAL commander. After serving in some of the most intense battlegrounds around the world, I'm telling you, around the world, he decides to shift gears. How does he do that? By diving into the world of mindfulness and meditation. Talk about a 180-degree turn. Now, he's not just a retired Navy SEAL. He's also a consultant. He's a keynote speaker, and he's the host of the Men Talking Mindfulness podcast, which is very successful. And what is his mission? His mission is to share the power of mindfulness, to show how vulnerability and compassion can be strengths, not weaknesses. And here's a fun fact. Jon, he's not just a mindfulness guru, if I can say the word. He's a family man too. After traveling the country with his wife and kids in an RV of all things, they decided that they were going to settle down on a quaint farm in Colorado Springs. And that's the kind of balance we all aspire to, right? So let's welcome him, and let's give him a warm welcome to the man who's comfortable meditating and just as comfortable parachuting out of a plane, Jon Macaskill. So let me cue up his video, and we're going to get going because it is an amazing interview. You guys are in for a treat. Your background, and not everybody has the typical background that you have, which means that you have a different sort of mindset and discipline and motivation that's a whole higher level than most people experience or get to in their lives. But the one thing I've noticed about people nowadays is they tend to take their temperature before they decide that they're going to do something. And it's like, just do it. Like Nike, just do it. What would you say to somebody that is constantly checking in with their thoughts, feelings, and emotions before deciding to do what they want to do?
Yeah, I totally understand that. I can get wrapped up in that myself, analysis paralysis, trying to outline the entire plan. And luckily, I'm married to someone who is completely opposite than that. And she has helped me to find some type of balance in attacking my vision before I really have the plan. Because sometimes, having a plan is great. Don't get me wrong. I've lived by plans in my background in the SEAL teams, and I still live by plans at times to this day. But having a vision and just going for it and kind of taking that leap of faith, quite often, what ends up working out is completely different than what you would have planned anyhow. Like I had this very, very refined plan of how I was going to get out of the military. And the saying is that the enemy gets a vote, or the Mike Tyson had a little saying where everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, that's what I had. I had this perfect plan, and as soon as it got slightly derailed, then I started to panic. But I realized pretty quickly that my plan was only as good as the piece of paper that it was written on, and that a higher power in the universe, or whatever it is that you believe in, had a bigger plan and a better plan for me. And if you would ask me, 5 or 10 years ago, whether I would have been retired from the Navy doing what I do now, which is teaching mindfulness and meditation, I would have told you that you were crazy, you're out of your mind. But that's exactly what I do now. And the plan has just been kind of catch as catch can. And I think sometimes you just have to put your faith in that, whatever it is that you believe in, and take that leap of faith, because again, that plan is only as good as the piece of paper that you put it on.
I love that. One of my mentors, his saying is launch and adjust. And that's really gotten me out of the perfectionism that I tend to fall into.
Right, for sure.
But when somebody is starting something and they're all jazzed up and they're excited to go, and all of a sudden it can't sustain itself, that elevated feeling. How important is discipline and motivation when those things start to wane?
Yeah, I think discipline and motivation is one of the things, or a couple of things that I speak on regularly, is having some type of discipline in your daily routine. Because again, coming back to the plan question, eventually something is going to happen that's going to kind of shake you or throw you off your path. And that can be over your long-term plan, or that can be on your daily plan. And I like to have a daily routine. I get up at a certain time. I have some quiet time. I meditate. I read. I do everything before the chaos starts, right? And by having that discipline to do it, that allows me to have some type of level of success in my mind. Excuse me, I'm going to grab some water. Before the day really gets started. And then I can build on that throughout the day. And if I start the day, at 5 minutes before, if I roll out of my bed 5 minutes before my day starts, and then I'm in complete chaos from the get-go, anything else that happens is going to be even worse. So having some type of discipline in your daily routine is fantastic to set you up for success in your day and ultimately in your life. But then also having the discipline in your overall plan, or your overall day, your overall life, whatever that looks like, that is going to give you the confidence when, again, inevitably life throws a wrench in your plan, that you have done the work, you have put in the hours of training, put in the hours of work, put in the hours of rehearsing, whatever it is, so that you're prepared for whatever life throws at you. So having that discipline, I think, is critical in being successful in anything you do.
I like that a lot, because, you mentioned throughout this talk, this idea of having a plan, but life is going to throw crap at you no matter what. And it's like most people think that when something happens, maybe they're just not meant to do it. Or if those feelings disappear, oh, it's just not for me. Otherwise, I'd still be excited about it. So I like this idea of just expecting that there is going to be something that comes up for sure, because that is how life works. And I don't,
Absolutely.
I love that. But I'm curious too, because, even though we can plan, I mean, knowing what you had to go through as far as training, I am quite certain that you have been able to do more than you thought you could, and kept going after you thought that you couldn't do anything more. So my question is, for those people that are trying to set their goals, they should be somewhat realistic, but also lofty. What would you suggest to them?
Yeah, I'm going to use the kind of trite, big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG. And having that BHAG, I think is fantastic, but a lot of the time it can be overwhelming. But I think it's a necessary thing to have. It's the old saying, how do you eat an elephant, right? You eat an elephant one bite at a time. But when you look at that elephant, you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to tackle this? If you want to write a book, and you think about how am I going to put all the chapters together? How am I going to fill 250 pages or whatever it is that you want to fill? And it gets overwhelming. If you're thinking about training for a marathon, you think, hey, 26.2 miles, but all I can run today is 1 mile.
Mm-hmm.
It gets overwhelming. Well, having that ultimate goal, pinned on your vision board or a sticker on your mirror or whatever, that's fantastic. But then you have to be able to break that down into digestible chunks and then not get overwhelmed by those digestible chunks. And even if those digestible, or rather smaller chunks, aren't quite digestible, even break those down even further. Break it down. Let's say for the marathon, you're training for 26.2 miles. You say, okay, well, halfway I want to be able to run maybe a 10K. And then maybe even that 10K is overwhelming to look at first. Well, we'll break that down, 5K, and then break that down into a 1 mile, timed run, breaking everything down into smaller chunks. That's how I got through SEAL training. When I looked at the 6-month training, I was like, man, there's no way I'm going to make it. But then if you ask the guys who make it through, they break it down into the days and break those days down into even hours, and even those hours down. Hey, if I can make it through this next 5 minutes, I'm going to be okay. And I think that's how we have to tackle life. And I got to come back to your previous comment about how life is inevitably going to throw things at you. When I speak, I talk about resilience, and resilience is getting back up after having been knocked down. And I always say that in life, you're in one of three places. You're either getting knocked down, you're getting back up from having been knocked down, or that I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're heading for a knockdown. So you might as well prepare for that in some form or fashion. And knowing that knockdown is coming, because it is, we've all been knocked down and we've all gotten back up, but knowing that next knockdown is coming, that's what's going to enable you to get back up that next time.
I think that that's really important. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because a lot of people, as you know, get stuck in the victim idea of why is this happening to me versus, okay, this is happening. So what am I going to do? It's responding versus reacting. It's all of that. So I know that since you're an expert in mindset, what are some small shifts that people can make when maybe they notice themselves we all get into that at some point. It's kind of like, why me? But doesn't mean you camp there. Doesn't mean you live there. So
Indeed. No, it's funny you should say that one mindset shift that you just mentioned. Why is this happening to me? That's the question so many of us ask. Mm-hmm. I am part of this group, and we've started saying, why is this happening for me? And Ryan Holiday, he's the big stoic. He writes about that. Hey, change the question that you're asking. It's not why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me? What can I learn from it? How can I grow through it? And that's the mindset shift that I've had to make multiple times in my life. I mean, even this holiday, this holiday, I had some ups and downs, and there were times when I'm like, man, why is this happening to me? And I was like, wait a minute. I talk about using the why is this happening for me reset, kind of reframe, and just that one word, for instead of to, mm-hmm. that was a huge shift in my mentality and the way that I viewed things. And I felt like I was a better person, better able to handle the next thing that came at me. And I think I was probably a better person to be around as well, because I actually saw these challenges and obstacles as an opportunity rather than something that was happening to me. So yeah, reframes, those are big. Find what reframe works for you. If it's not the why is it happening for me? Maybe find something else. I get to do this. So many of us are like, why do I have to go to work? Well, guess what? You get to go to a job that puts money into your bank account, that puts food on the table, puts a roof over your head. So maybe your next reframe is I get to instead of, I have to. So just taking a look at how you think about things and reframing how you think about your day, how you think about your job, how you think about everything. I mean, kids, right? I've got young kids, and quite often my young kids are a handful, and I have to think, hey, you know what? I get to be a parent. I get to be a dad. Why is this happening for me? Well, it's happening for me so that I can be a better person, so that I can raise other great kids, other great people. And it's just an awesome opportunity. And when you look at things as opportunities instead of obstacles, that can be a great reset.
I like that a lot. The other one that got me through a couple ones is why not me? Why does somebody else deserve it more than
Right?
why
That's
not me? Why am I so yeah, I like this idea though of asking better questions because you get better answers.
right.
By the way, I'm doing my first triathlon in April. I'll be 46,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty excited. So it's funny that you mentioned the triathlon because it's this idea of breaking everything down. And I think
Yeah.
that a lot of people do, like they start focusing on, that bigger goal versus the smaller ones that are the action steps that are going to get them there, the journey versus the destination. How could meditation help somebody maybe quiet those voices? Because it's that little bully in our head that starts rearing up and is like, trying to stop us from doing what we say we want to do.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, physiologically, we are wired to see things in a negative light. It's called the negativity bias. The negativity bias is there to protect us. If you go back to the ancient times when we were ancient cavemen and women, and we would go out with our clubs to, get food. If we were to assume the worst, if we were to go around a corner and assume that there was a saber-toothed tiger around this corner, and we were wrong, we would live. Let's say we go around the corner, we assume that there is a saber-toothed tiger, there's no saber-toothed tiger, we're okay. That's the negativity bias. If the inverse were true, if we went out and we just assumed that everything is hunky-dory, and we assumed that every corner that we went around, there's no saber-toothed tiger, and then we're wrong, then we die. So it's kind of a good way for us to be wired as far as propagation of the species and continuing our own lives. But in this day and age, there are fewer and fewer threats as far as life-threatening actual threats. And we see, email, and we see social media, and we see new deadlines at work, and we see all these things as threats. And we see anything that we set as a goal as a threat. Like, I will never achieve that. We have this negativity bias that's telling us a negative narrative in our minds that say, hey, I'm not good enough to achieve that, basically so that we don't let ourselves down, so that we're not disappointed. Well, in mindfulness and meditation, we can start to shrink the amygdala, which is the part of our brain that is responsible for that fight, flight, or freeze reaction, like you mentioned before, the reaction instead of the response, or the response versus reaction. And we can start to think more with our prefrontal cortex, which is the rational part of our brain. And when we start to think more with that, we start to realize that a lot of these negative thoughts, these negative narratives, are there to protect us, but they're not true. And we are actually a lot better than that negative narrative tells us. And that can be changed through mindfulness and meditation. And then there are particular types of meditation that you can do to change the way that you see yourself. You can do a self-compassion meditation, and that can change the way that you see yourself, the stories that you tell yourself, and letting those stories go is a big part of meditation and growth, personal growth, and mindset change. Coming back to the obstacles and the opportunities, that meditation can change the way that you view these challenges and adversity as well. So that's a big way that meditation changes your life.
I like that so much. Oh my goodness, that was very well said. I don't think I've ever heard it described quite so eloquently. So thank you for that. Now, I do have one more question for you, and that is, um, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be in order to help them become who you are?
Don't be so arrogant. Man, I think back to my 15, 16, 17-year old self, and I think I was an arrogant little punk. Looking back on it now, that said, I think some of that arrogance probably helped helped me to achieve what I have achieved. But yeah, I wish that I could have done it with more humility and more compassion for my fellow, I don't know, classmates, fellow man, and man being general, gender neutral term. So yeah, I think I would tell myself to kind of get over myself.
I love that. That's good advice for people our age too. So
Indeed.
thank you so much, John. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Isn't that amazing? I just love him. He is such an amazing soul. And for somebody who, started out, not started out, but was a Navy SEAL, and then to do this 180 and get into mindfulness and meditation. And that just shows how important things could, these fundamentals are in order to achieve that next level of success. And you can reach him at Frogman. So anyway, we're going to bring out our next guest, our next interview. She's absolutely amazing. Let's give a warm welcome to Jacqueline Strominger. She is a dynamo who's been lighting up the world of entrepreneurship and personal development for over I almost said two, 3 decades. She doesn't look that old, but she's been at this for a while, so she knows her stuff. Anyway, Jacqueline's story is a testament to the power of passion and the courage to follow one's dreams. Think about this. After 2 decades in the glossy world of magazine publishing, Jacqueline had an epiphany. She noticed something crucial. So many bright men and women stepping out of college or high school without a real roadmap for their lives. And that sparked something in Jacqueline. It wasn't just about climbing the corporate ladder anymore, not only for her, but maybe for other people too. It was about lighting the way for others. So in 2013, Jacqueline, she decided to make a bold move. She said goodbye to corporate America and hello to the thrilling world of entrepreneurship. But she didn't stop there. Jacqueline turned her journey into a mission, and her mission is coaching and training others to chase their entrepreneurial dreams. Whether it's a side hustle or it's making the big leap away from the 9-to-5 job, Jacqueline's been there. She's been guiding with wisdom and her experience. And here's where it gets even more inspiring with Jacqueline. Through her mentoring, she doesn't just focus on business smarts. We all know that's important, but she also dives deep into inner and outer confidence. So what's Jacqueline's message? It's simple, yet it's powerful. She wants you to believe in yourself, find your path, and spread that confidence like wildfire. So let's catch some of that infectious energy from Jacqueline Strominger, and we're going to watch her video and I've already seen it a couple times, but it is really good. Welcome, Jacqueline. I'm so glad to have you here today. You and I have had a conversation, many conversations, but this is our second one on camera. And you are such an amazing soul that I definitely wanted to bring you back so that you could share your knowledge and your perspective on how to handle when that excitement wanes towards our goals and we need to keep moving forward or switch what we're going to do. So my first question to you is, when the excitement wanes, that's when that self-doubt starts to come in. And how can you distinguish between self-doubt and a real assessment of where you are and what your goals are?
So it's such a great question. And I was actually just talking to a client about this, actually. So one of the biggest things when we're working on our goals, I don't like to say why, but it's more it's reason. Like we have to come back to the reason of what we are doing. So if and most of the time, the reason is not about us. It's reflected on something else or other people. So if you're working on your goal and you're like, oh my God, this isn't working. A lot of times it's that little reminder. Number one is that the compound effect has to take a hold. It's the baby steps. What you see today, you don't always see the big results. It can take, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, longer, right? For you to really see a huge change. But at the same time, as you're going through that and you're thinking it's not working, we have to remember the reason we are doing it. It's if you're going for sales and you're going for, greater income, the income's not for you. It's for what the income can do. Mm-hmm. It's you're doing it for your family. You're doing it to take somebody on a cruise. You're doing it to help your family, your parents, the people around you, your coworkers, your business associates. So it's to remind yourself who you are serving with your goals. And that little reminder that it's the hare, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? Like we need to be the hare, right? And remember, number one, whatever we need to do it, and it's going to need to work over time. And that little reminder also to tell yourself that, what I'm doing today it's going to have an impact. And it will have an impact. And partly it's up here too. We've got to remind ourselves.
I like this idea too, because it's and I'm going to take this back to health and wellness. One piece of candy every single day is going to add up after a while. So all these little choices that we make for ourselves definitely do make a difference, even if we don't see it right away. Now, I'm curious too, a lot of people, and I used to be one of these people, when that excitement of my goals or whatever just would sort of dissipate, even if you really want something, you can't keep that level of excitement constant. So I'm just curious what you would say to somebody who thinks that it's normal to keep that level that's so high, whereas you and I both know that isn't actually possible. But how would you explain that to someone else?
The way that I usually explain it is that there's always highs and lows, right? We're always going through the up and down and up and down and up and down. And that's how it is, throughout through all aspects of life, whether it's a business, your family, your marriage. I mean, there's always these highs and lows, and you cannot sustain that crazy high level, but you can sustain a level of energy and excitement, but the energy levels may wane. You may go from a 3 to a 6, right? And the way that you also, I remind people, that what we are doing to feed the energy really matters too. So what are you telling yourself? If you're getting up in the morning and you're like, oh, I'm dreading this, guess what? You're going to dread it. But if you get up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I can't wait to start my day. And I can't wait to, I can't wait. I have my, a little mantra on my wall, and I can say I can't wait to talk to people today. Who can I help today to turn passion into profit? And I say it and I get chills and I get excited about it. So I always say, remind yourself. And if you can, take a piece of paper and write a quick little mantra so that you can stick it on your computer. I like making a little screensaver on my phone. I like putting it in my bathroom. I have a medicine cabinet that I open up, stick it in my medicine cabinet so I can see it and it's a reminder. And yes, am I always going to be operating at a level 6? No, because you just, you can't run a marathon for your entire life. At some point, you have to refresh, rejuvenate, and refresh everything. So I remind people we need to do that. we need to take those moments to look at what we've done, celebrate the small successes that we've had, keep something beside you that you have written down so you can remind yourself of what's going to put that smile on your face, and know that it's a process. I mean, it's a journey. Again, it's not a sprint.
No, I really like that, because I know, well, one of the things I always preach about is, what are you feeding your mind? What are you feeding your soul? And it's kind of like the whole idea, well, yeah, you made your bed and you brush your teeth, but you got to do it again tomorrow. So expecting it to just run on fumes, I mean, it's going to run out at some point if you don't keep feeding it the gasoline.
Right, and we need to keep feeding it. And the one thing I also like to remind people when I'm talking to them about, like the goals, and we're at the start of a new year, and the one thing is, you have to incorporate into your plan misses. Like, it's like exercise, okay? Right? You can say to yourself, I'm going to work out, which I would never tell anybody if they you can't go from 0 to 7 days, but how are you adding it in? And if you miss a day that you planned, guess what? That's okay. Just don't give up. Mm-hmm. Like, just because you had a miss, or if you're dieting and you decided to eat the piece of cake or the candy, know that we have misses, and that's going to happen. We just have to account for them, so that you just know the next day you just get back on the horse, right? Like, if you fall off, if you fall skiing, you have to get back up. You don't just
lay on the hill.
I mean, you could do what I did once on a snowboard, because I could not get it at all. I used a snowboard for a sled, but that's a whole other story.
Oh, that's amazing.
I was a skier, so I was really having a hard time keeping my feet together. It was like, anyway. But the whole point, obviously, is that we just because we have a miss or something, it's not, it's a zig, it's a zig and a zag. It's, the line's not always going to be straight. So in your plan, like, just know, like, okay, there might be a month where, okay, so one month I reached all my sales goals. Maybe there's a month that I didn't, but then there is the next month, and it's okay. Mm-hmm. We have to remind ourselves that that's okay. We just can't stop.
Yes, exactly. It's the idea of progress, not perfection. And I've never heard that before. I love this idea of planning the misses, because they do happen. And so many people, as you know, they take that as the sign that they're a failure, and then stop.
Right. So, I always like to remind people, whatever we're doing, right? Whatever the goal, and I actually shared something on today about this. We want to make what we're doing. Yes, we want it to make it a habit, so it's not a hobby, right? Like, I don't like making a goal is. They always say, are you doing this as a hobby, or are you doing it for something for real? So I always say, like, are you going to set the goal as a hobby? Like, oh, I just set the goal, but am I going to put an action behind it? Mm-hmm. So, but at the same time, we have to have, the goals that we're setting and planning for. This was a saying that has stuck with me. We always have to measure, monitor, adjust, and then control, right? Mm-hmm. So we're always measuring what we're doing. We're monitoring it, right? To see, like, okay, I have to track what I'm doing. Is it working? Do I need to adjust it? And then then when I've got what I'm doing well, that becomes my control. And then I do it all over again. I'm measuring, I'm monitoring, I'm adjusting, and then I have my control. And that's what we're doing in life.
Yeah. No, I really like that because you are adjusting due to what the results are, what's actually happening versus what your thoughts and feelings and emotions are. And I think that that is really important for us to not always take our own temperature before we decide to do something. It's kind of like, you know, I don't, me brushing my teeth is a non-negotiable. I'm going to brush them because I don't want them to fall out. I spent a lot of money on my teeth. I am not going to not take care of them. So it never becomes a question about whether or not I'm going to do that. But, sometimes I brush them longer and sometimes I brush them shorter, but they still get brushed.
They will always get brushed, right?
They will always get brushed. I love that. So for somebody that is, maybe doing something that they're not passionate about with their life and they're spending the majority of their time basically making money to pay bills, for example. How possible or how hard is it for somebody like that to switch into doing what they're passionate about? And what I'm asking you is, what would be the first step to break it down?
To find what they're passionate about, to do that for something that might be financially rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that I would say to anybody, if you have no idea what makes you happy, is to start with a list of creating the things that do make you happy and also things that you're curious to learn. Like, what would make you get up in the morning to learn? And it might even be taking what you do in your day job that you don't like. What part of that job or career do you love?
Mm-hmm.
And really starting to look at what sings in your heart and then starting to see what do you do in your skill set could be transferable into something that you're more passionate about. But you have to dig deep inside and look and see what things make you, what gets you excited, what things do you like to do, what are the things that you're really good at, like what's your superpower.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be that you might be really great at numbers, but you are stuck behind a desk. So what could you do with numbers that maybe gets you outside from behind a desk? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you're out and about and you would rather be behind a desk. So you really want to start to look at, again, really creating that list and then kind of seeing, again, things that you're curious about that you can learn and what's the crossover? Like, where is that crossover happening?
I think that is well, first of all, I want to say, I'm so glad you mentioned about maybe not being sure about what lights you up, because I was that person. I literally had no idea what made me happy. And I think it's more common than people realize because we don't stop and think about things like that. We're so focused on other stuff that we don't think about, hey, what makes me happy? Right. It's simple, but it's also, wow, that's a profound statement. And also the thing that I was thinking about was my cousin, she invented a job for herself. That's possible too. She created it out of thin air.
And that's a really key thing. It is possible because sometimes, here's the big thing. Take a corporation. You could invent a job or a title or actions because what you're doing is you're thinking outside the box. Mm-hmm. Just because it doesn't exist doesn't mean it can't exist.
Exactly.
Right? So I'll take advertising. Let's say you love advertising, but maybe you don't like the close part, but you like the business development part. Maybe there's a way that you can partner up with in a company where you can be the development person and somebody's coming into close, right? Or, call it, whatever you want to call it. But it's finding out, again, what is what are you also good at that you like to do?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I love that. Well, is there any final thoughts or anything that you'd love to share with the audience that can leave them in a better place?
So the biggest thing I would say to anybody who's listening, just remember that taking a leap it does take courage, but just remember, no matter what you do, you can be totally unstoppable as long as you set your mind to do it. And you have to believe in yourself with your heart and your head.
I love that. Thank you so much, Jacqueline. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, thank you. That's so appreciated.
Isn't she awesome? Oh my goodness. I've always enjoyed every single conversation that I get to have with Jacqueline. Something I noticed, and I hope you guys did too, is our first two speakers, they both said something similar. And it was this idea of expect failure, expect there to be this setback, but don't stop. Keep moving forward. There's always going to be a suck. There's always going to be a crap sandwich that you need to eat, no matter what it is. So when that comes up, just realize that that's part of it. And so I think that when we're moving through our goal setting and, we're moving forward towards our goals, we sometimes forget that it's not a straight linear path. There's going to be, it may look straight in the beginning, but let's imagine it like a field. Let's imagine that there's a field in front of you and you're trying to get to that tree that's, say, a mile away. And you're walking through this field and, the grass, the hay is, well, it's not hay because it's not cut yet, but the grass is up to about here. You can't really see anything, but you can see that tree. You're walking along. Now, all of a sudden, there's this barbed wire fence that's down low that you have to figure out how to get around. So you're still on track, even if you have to go back and get something to cut the fence, or if you have to go around all the way around it somehow, you're still on track. So I always want people to remember that it's not linear. And so when that initial excitement wears off from our goals, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that our brains cannot sustain that level of chemical reaction at that time anymore. So don't breathe too much into it. But anyway, love Jacqueline. She's such an amazing person. And she's been on a few of my episodes on my regular TV show, Own Your Wellness. So feel free to go check her out there. Now, I'm actually really excited to introduce our next guest. Her name is Paula Naeff, And here's the thing that I love about her is that she is let me just explain, okay? First of all, Paula, she is a multifaceted powerhouse who truly embodies the spirit of versatility and passion. And Paula's approach to life and coaching is refreshingly straightforward, keeping things simple and clear. Those are two of her magic words. Well, simple is. Anyway, so let's start with her roots and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She hails from the serene landscapes of Finland, and Paula now lights up Basel, Switzerland, and the world beyond, because she's not just a coach, she's a linguistic maestro, seamlessly serving her diverse clientele in English, in German, and Finnish, 3 languages, and she speaks them all well. Anyway, as a keynote speaker and international best-selling author, her words resonate across continents. But that's just scratching the surface, because Paula's not one to shy away from challenges. In fact, she embraces them, encouraging her clients to do the same. Her coaching style is about more than just strategy. It's about responsibility, it's about balance, and thriving in life and business. And talk about a Renaissance woman. Woo! Paula's journey has been anything but linear, from a credit manager to an artist, from a clown, yes, a clown, to a dancer, and even a certified Pilates instructor. She's done it all. But what makes her truly unique? And it's her ability to challenge her clients and audiences on every level, mind, body, and soul, all while keeping joy at the forefront. Whether she's working one-on-one or she's leading groups or she's running her in-person retreats and interactive workshops, Paula's methods are as effective as they are unique. So before we dive into her journey of holistic growth and infectious joy, we're going to check out her commercial. But after that, we're going to go dive right into her interview. So we'll be back in just a moment.